Some questions arrive years too late, carrying the weight of entire lifetimes. Some words can stop time, forcing you to look back at roads you never traveled and dreams you quietly buried beneath responsibility, regret, and silence. When she looked at me across the crowded reunion hall and asked, "Did you ever get my letter?" it felt as though 20 years disappeared in a single heartbeat, and suddenly I was 17 again, standing in a hallway filled with sunlight, holding feelings I was too afraid to confess. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the mysterious ways life brings people back together, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who believes in fate, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope. Your support helps keep these heartfelt stories alive. The reunion was held on a bright Saturday afternoon in early summer. Sunlight spilled through the large windows of the banquet hall, painting golden patterns across polished wooden floors. Outside, children laughed in a nearby park while birds circled lazily under a cloudless sky. It was the kind of day that seemed designed to awaken old memories. I almost didn't attend. For years, I had ignored invitations from former classmates. Life had become predictable in ways I never imagined during my teenage years. I worked as an architect, lived alone in a modest apartment, and spent most evenings convincing myself that being busy was the same thing as being fulfilled. My parents had passed away several years apart, and after caring for them during their illnesses, I had somehow forgotten how to dream for myself again. People often tell you that time heals everything, but sometimes time simply teaches you how to live alongside your unanswered questions. High school had been a strange chapter of my life. I was quiet, serious, and painfully shy. I preferred sketching buildings in notebooks rather than attending parties. While other students chased popularity, I hid behind books and convinced myself that feelings were distractions. Then there was Serafina Mercer. She wasn't the most popular girl in school, but she possessed something far more unforgettable. She carried warmth wherever she went. Her smile made people feel seen. She remembered birthdays, encouraged students who struggled, and volunteered at community events long before anyone else cared about building resumes or impressing colleges. To me, she seemed impossibly bright. We became friends during our junior year after being assigned to the same history project. At first, our conversations revolved around schoolwork, but gradually they expanded into discussions about music, dreams, family, and the future. She loved writing poetry. I loved drawing. She dreamed of becoming a teacher. I dreamed of designing beautiful homes filled with laughter and life. Some afternoons, we would stay after school in the library while sunlight filtered through tall windows. She would write in a leather-bound journal while I sketched nearby. There was comfort in those quiet moments, an unspoken understanding that neither of us needed to fill silence with meaningless words. Everyone around us assumed we would eventually become a couple. But life isn't always kind to people who hesitate. My family struggled financially during my final year of high school. My father lost his job unexpectedly, and my mother began working long hours just to keep us afloat. College suddenly felt like an impossible luxury. Instead of focusing on friendships and teenage romance, I focused on survival. I convinced myself that Serafina deserved someone more confident, someone with certainty, someone who could offer promises instead of uncertainty. So I stayed silent. Graduation arrived faster than expected. Caps flew into the air. People cried. Photographs were taken. Promises to stay in touch were exchanged beneath warm daylight and hopeful skies. Serafina hugged me before leaving. She told me she believed I would accomplish great things someday. I thanked her awkwardly. And that was it. Or at least, I thought it was. Years passed. I attended college through scholarships and part-time jobs. I worked late nights, skipped vacations, and slowly built a stable career. Along the way, relationships came and went, but none lasted long enough to become permanent. There was always a part of me that compared everyone to a memory. A memory of a girl sitting near a library window, writing poetry while sunlight danced across the pages. Eventually, I stopped searching. I accepted that some people exist in our lives simply to teach us what tenderness feels like. When I received another invitation for our 20-year class reunion, I stared at it for weeks before deciding to go. Maybe I was searching for closure. Maybe I was searching for pieces of myself I had lost. Or maybe I was simply tired of wondering. The reunion hall buzzed with laughter and nostalgia. Old classmates embraced each other, sharing stories about careers, marriages, children, and unexpected journeys. People recognized me immediately. Time had changed us all. Hairlines had receded. Wrinkles had appeared. Dreams had evolved. But beneath the changes, familiar faces remained. Then I saw her. Serafina stood near a table decorated with old yearbooks and photographs. She wore a soft blue dress that moved gently in the afternoon breeze drifting through open doors. Her hair was shorter now, streaked slightly with silver, but her smile remained exactly the same. Warm. Comforting. Timeless. For a moment, I couldn't move. She noticed me. Recognition spread across her face instantly. And then she walked toward me. We spoke about ordinary things at first. Work. Family. Memories. She had become an elementary school teacher, just as she always dreamed. She had spent years helping children overcome learning difficulties and building programs for underprivileged students. There was pride in her voice, but also sadness. Eventually, she mentioned that she had been married once. The marriage ended after 8 years. No children. Too many differences. Too many disappointments. She said she learned that love requires more than affection. It requires timing. Honesty. Courage. Then she looked directly at me. There was curiosity in her eyes. And perhaps something else. Something unresolved. That was when she asked the question that shattered my carefully organized world. Did you ever get my letter? At first, I thought I had misunderstood. My letter? What letter? She explained that 2 weeks after graduation, she had written me a handwritten letter. She poured her heart into it. She told me she cared about me deeply. She admitted she had hoped we might build a future together. She said she didn't want to spend years wondering what might have happened if she stayed silent. So she sent the letter to my home address. Then she waited. Days passed. Weeks passed. Months passed. But I never responded. Eventually, she assumed I didn't feel the same way. She convinced herself she had imagined our connection. She moved forward because she believed she had no other choice. I stood frozen. Because I had never received any letter. Not one. My parents moved houses shortly after graduation due to financial difficulties. Mail had been lost during the transition. Some bills never arrived. Important documents disappeared. Apparently, so had Serafina's confession. An entire future vanished because of a missing envelope. We sat together near the window afterward, watching sunlight stretch across the floor. Neither of us spoke for several moments. There are losses in life that happen suddenly. And there are losses that reveal themselves decades later. This was the second kind. I felt grief for a life I never lived. I imagined what might have happened if that letter had reached me. Perhaps we would have attended college together. Perhaps we would have supported each other through difficult years. Perhaps our dreams would have grown side by side. Or perhaps things would still have fallen apart. No one can truly know. But knowing there had once been a possibility changed everything. Serafina smiled gently. She said she carried disappointment for years, but eventually learned that some stories are not tragedies. They are lessons. She told me she no longer felt angry. Only curious. Curious about whether I had known. curious about whether her younger self had been brave for nothing. I assured her she had not been brave for nothing. In fact, her courage inspired me even after all those years. Because she had done something I never managed to do. She chose honesty over fear. She risked rejection rather than living with uncertainty. I realized then that most regrets aren't born from failure. They are born from silence. From opportunities postponed until they disappear. From words left unsaid because we assume there will always be another chance. As the afternoon continued, classmates gathered outside for photographs. Laughter echoed through the courtyard. People posed beneath bright sunshine while memories resurfaced through stories and old pictures. For the first time in many years, I felt present. Not trapped in routine. Not burdened by responsibilities. Simply present. Serafina and I spent hours talking. About books. Travel. Loss. Healing. Dreams we had achieved. Dreams we had abandoned. We discovered that despite the years between us, we still understood each other effortlessly. The comfort remained. The familiarity remained. Even hope remained. Before leaving, she handed me a folded piece of paper. She laughed softly and said she wasn't making the same mistake twice. Inside was her phone number. And beneath it she had written a sentence. Life is too short for unanswered questions. That evening, I walked home beneath a sky glowing with shades of orange and gold. For years, I believed my story had already reached its conclusion. I believed certain doors were permanently closed. But life has a remarkable way of surprising us when we least expect it. Sometimes healing doesn't come from changing the past. It comes from understanding it. Sometimes closure doesn't arrive in the form of endings. Sometimes it arrives in the form of new beginnings. Over the following months, Serafina and I met regularly. Coffee became lunches. Lunches became long walks through parks filled with blooming flowers. Long walks became shared traditions. We attended poetry readings. Visited museums. Talked about our younger selves with compassion rather than regret. Neither of us tried to reclaim lost years. We simply appreciated the years we still had. Because growing older teaches you that love isn't always about grand gestures. Sometimes love is simply finding someone who remembers who you were before life made you forget yourself. And perhaps that was our greatest gift. Not romance. Not destiny. But recognition. Recognition that despite time, heartbreak, and missed opportunities, we were still capable of connection. Still capable of hope. Still capable of beginning again. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, share this video, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope. Your support allows these meaningful stories to reach others who may need a reminder that it is never too late for healing, forgiveness, or unexpected joy. Special request, comment below and tell us, have you ever wondered how your life might have changed if one message, one letter, or one conversation had reached you at the right time? As I think back to that reunion, I no longer focus on the years we lost.